Picture a throne room in ancient China
Okay.
to rule millions of subjects, manage crippling famines, and wage complex wars. The emperor utilized this highly classified state secret. It was a biological hack that required him to deliberately do absolutely nothing.
Right, which sounds like a paradox, or, maybe just an excuse for a ruler to avoid his duties,
Yeah.
like taking a nap while the empire burns.
Yeah, does
Mhm.
sound completely counterintuitive. But, well, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking you into the science of meditation, and we're drawing from an excerpt of Chapter 2 of a really foundational text that breaks down exactly what this ancient concept means.
It's a great source.
It is. So, the mission for our deep dive today is to decode this paradox. We really want to figure out how the act of literally doing nothing is actually the ultimate biological and mental life hack for you today.
What's fascinating here is that when ancient Taoists, like Laozi in the Tao Te Ching, when they talked about doing nothing or this idea of effortlessness,
Mhm.
they absolutely did not mean being lazy. They meant obeying the laws of nature, like aligning human behavior with the absolute fundamental currents of biology and reality.
Which is huge.
It is. And the text we're looking at makes this brilliant argument. It suggests that the ancient sages likely derived this philosophy directly from the physical internal practice of meditation. And then they just, scale it up.
Sealed it up how?
They applied it to everyday life, to cellular biology, and ultimately to ruling entire empires.
Wow. Well, to understand how to do nothing in that powerful, world-shifting way, the text says we first have to understand who, or I guess rather what, is currently doing everything inside your body.
Exactly. We have to look at the internal machinery.
Okay, let's unpack this. The source divides all human physical activities into two major buckets. First, you have the systems controlled by your conscious brain.
Right, the stuff you choose to do.
Exactly. You decide to lift your arm, to drink your coffee, you lift it. You decide to mentally plan your route to work, you plan it. But then you have the second bucket, which is the unconscious brain. And this encompasses everything that happens without you ever sending an active command.
Yeah, like the lungs expanding, the heart maintaining its rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
or the digestive tract breaking down your breakfast.
Even the complex filtering system of your kidneys, right?
Yes, all of that. All of this is still managed by your brain, but by a completely different, deeply embedded neural network.
So the text sets up a contrast between what it calls the effort world and the effortless world. Like when you and I are awake right now, the conscious brain is running the show. It's loud, it's demanding, and it represents the effort world.
It's doing a lot of work.
Yeah. But when you fall asleep, that conscious brain powers down, you lose awareness, and the unconscious brain completely takes over. And that is the effortless world.
Right. And we really need to emphasize the sheer volume of physiological work happening in that effortless state. Because the term effortless here, it only applies to your conscious awareness.
Meaning I'm not trying to do anything.
Exactly. It means the waking you isn't making an effort. But biologically,
Mhm.
your unconscious brain is putting on a hard hat and going into absolute overdrive.
It's busy.
Super busy. The text lists the actual heavy lifting your body executes the second you slip into that unconscious sleep state. It systematically drops your heart rate, lowers your circulating blood pressure, and slows down your breathing to this perfect baseline rhythm.
It even paralyzes your limbs so you don't physically act out your dreams.
Yeah, that chemical paralysis is a vital safety mechanism. And beyond that, it generates human growth hormone to repair tissues.
Oh, wow.
It renews your skin cells, and it dispatches immune cells to fight off incoming pathogens. And it also takes a massive influx of raw information you absorb during the day and consolidates it into long-term memory.
And the text also mentions it removes metabolic waste from your brain tissue, which just sounds like something out of a science fiction novel to me.
The underlying biology of that is just incredible.
Yeah.
Throughout the day, as your conscious brain thinks and operates, it burns energy, right? And it leaves behind toxic byproducts.
Like literal metabolic trash.
Literally.
Right.
So when you enter the effortless world of sleep, the cells in your brain actually shrink in size.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, they shrink, which allows cerebrospinal fluid to rush in and wash all that accumulated plaque and waste away.
That is wild.
It is. And that massive, highly coordinated biological symphony of healing and repair, it just cannot happen while the conscious mind is active. The conscious brain hoards the blood flow, the energy, and the bandwidth.
So it's like your conscious brain is this micromanaging boss.
Yeah,
Like all day long, it's strutting around the office, dominating the budget, stressing everyone out, shouting orders in the effort world. But the second that boss goes home for the night, The unconscious brain, the night shift crew, clocks in. And they're the ones actually mopping the floors, repairing the foundation, cleaning up the absolute mess the boss made all day.
The night shift crew is incredibly competent,
Yeah.
but they cannot do their best work while the micromanager is standing over their shoulder yelling at them.
Yeah, I totally get that. So, if I'm synthesizing this correctly, the biological nature of meditation is literally just tricking your body into falling asleep so that the night shift crew can come in and heal you while your mind somehow remains awake.
Yes, the text states that explicitly. The primary difference between meditation and sleep is simply your level of awareness.
Okay.
During normal sleep, you lose consciousness entirely. But during meditation, you maintain awareness, but you allow the physical body to enter that deeply restorative, effortless world.
That sounds amazing.
It is. You get to experience the magic of that biological healing state while remaining completely present.
I see a massive roadblock here, though. If I'm remaining awake, my conscious brain, that micromanager, is still in the building. It's totally going to try to intervene.
Oh, definitely. And the rule established in the text is unforgiving on this exact point. You must exclude any control over your body by the conscious brain.
Any control at all.
Any control. If the conscious mind gets involved in any bodily activity, even a fraction of a percent, you are instantly ripped out of the effortless world and thrown right back into the effort world.
So the night shift crew scatters and the healing process just stops.
Exactly.
Which means we need a bridge. If I'm awake and I'm trying to cross over into this sleep-like, effortless state without waking the whole system up, I need a mechanism that connects the two worlds. And the text says that secret bridge is breathing.
Breathing holds an entirely unique position in our physiological makeup.
Right.
It is the one major function that is dual controlled.
Right.
You can consciously decide right now to take a fast, shallow breath or, a deep, long breath.
I am involuntarily in manual breathing mode right now just because we're talking about it.
Why all are. The conscious override is built in so we can swim underwater or project our voices.
Makes sense.
But the moment you get distracted and forget about your breath, you don't simply stop breathing and pass out. The autonomic nervous system seamlessly takes the wheel.
It just takes over.
Yeah, it constantly measures the carbon dioxide levels in your blood and adjusts the depth and pace of your breathing with mathematical precision. That dual control makes it the perfect doorway from the effort world to the effortless world.
This perfectly explains where the ancient technique of observing breathing comes from. But knowing how bossy the conscious brain is, I can see the beginner's trap perfectly.
Oh, the trap is so common.
Right, because when you sit down and tell yourself to observe your breathing, the micromanager hears, oh, we're managing the breath now. Let me optimize this. And it just starts tweaking the dials.
Because the conscious brain simply doesn't have access to the real-time chemical data that the unconscious brain uses. It doesn't know your exact blood oxygen levels.
So it's flying blind.
Exactly. So when it tries to manually operate the breathing system, it is just guessing. It artificially extends the inhale, forces a pause, and then pushes out the exhale.
And the text points out this causes escalating physiological chaos.
You're taking a system that runs flawlessly on automatic, and you're forcing a clumsy manual override. It gets so chaotic that eventually you feel this overwhelming air hunger.
Right, like you're suffocating.
Yeah, you reach a point where you feel like you literally cannot breathe at all, and you are forced to gasp for air and start the entire process over.
Okay, but I have to push back here because this feels like an unsolvable paradox. If I'm supposed to use breathing as a tool, but paying attention to it ruins it, how is it physically possible to watch something without managing it?
It's tough.
Isn't observing an action itself a form of effort? How do I look at my breath without touching it?
That is the central hurdle of the entire practice.
Yeah.
The text provides a very specific framework for this. You must observe as a bystander.
A bystander.
Yes, you have to cultivate absolute, unwavering trust in the unconscious brain. You have to trust that it can handle the breathing on its own the exact same way you trust it to handle your heartbeat.
Yeah.
You never sit in a chair and try to manually flex your heart muscles to pump blood.
That sounds exhausting. And terrifying, honestly.
You never survive. You have to treat the lungs the exact same way. Whether the breath happens to be fast or slow, deep or shallow, your conscious brain has to just stand there with its hands in its pockets.
Hands in its pockets, I like that.
As the text states, as long as your conscious mind refuses to interfere, everything will run perfectly under the control of the unconscious brain alone.
So it's not about ignoring the breath, it's about feeling the breath happen to you rather than feeling like you are doing the breathing.
Yes, beautifully put. And once you realize how disastrous it is to manually control your breath, you suddenly understand why trying to manually silence your thoughts is a losing battle.
Which completely challenges almost every modern mindfulness app on the market right now.
Absolutely.
Because if you ask most people what meditation is, they'll tell you it means having a perfectly blank mind, sitting in a silent room with zero thoughts.
The text directly dismantles this myth. Forcing yourself not to think is just another aggressive form of the conscious brain exerting control.
The micromanager is just pacing the office, screaming, "Nobody think about anything." Total silence.
Exactly, because suppressing thoughts requires active inhibition. You are literally using your prefrontal cortex to forcefully shut down other areas of the brain.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It burns metabolic energy. It is the literal definition of effort. Both controlled thinking, like actively doing your taxes, and forced mental silence are the exact opposite of what meditation is trying to achieve. The goal of the effortless world is surrendering control.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text uses an incredibly relatable analogy to explain how you actually achieve this mental surrender.
Oh, I love this analogy.
Yeah, it asks you to think of the process like taking a toddler to a playground. Let's break this down. In stage 1, you are in the effort world. The child is very young, maybe just learning to walk. As the parent, you are following that toddler absolutely everywhere. You're hovering behind them on the stairs of the slide, sitting next to them in the sandbox, holding them on the swings.
It's exhausting.
It is constant supervision, constant physical control, and it is entirely exhausting. And this is your conscious brain on a normal Tuesday. You're micromanaging every breath, analyzing every passing thought, and trying to control every outcome.
Total domination by the conscious mind. There is literally no space for the unconscious systems to operate independently.
Exactly. Then we move to stage 2. The child is a bit older and more capable. Now, you don't follow the kid onto the equipment, you go sit on a bench on the edge of the playground.
You're still watching, though.
Right, you're watching attentively, keeping an eye on where they are, but from a distance. You aren't interfering with their play. This represents the observing breathing or observing thoughts stage.
It's the vital first step in giving up control.
Yes, you are firmly on the bench.
You're watching the breath fluctuate, or watching a stressful thought enter your mind. But you aren't chasing the thought down a rabbit hole, and you aren't trying to forcefully push it away. You just watch it run around the playground.
But the bench isn't the final destination. We finally reach stage 3, which is the effortless world.
The best stage.
The child is older still, they can completely handle themselves. So what do you do as the parent? You stop watching constantly, you leave the playground entirely and go to a nearby coffee shop to read a book.
You completely let go.
Total freedom for the kid and total peace for the parent. The text points out the brilliant efficiency of this. It's a win-win situation that requires absolutely zero effort from the parents.
They just had to trust that the kid could take care of themselves.
Right. They had to deeply trust the unconscious brain.
That transition, from the bench to the coffee shop, that represents the final, most profound hurdle described in the text.
Because getting to the bench and just watching your chaotic thoughts without getting involved is hard enough. But leaving the playground entirely?
The text explains that all of these techniques, observing the breath, scanning the body, watching thoughts, they're all just stage 2.
Stepping stones.
Exactly. They're incredibly useful tools to get you to sit on the bench. But as you get closer to the true effortless world, the act of observation itself becomes a barrier.
The text actually labels observation as the last obstacle.
Because to observe is to maintain a tiny, lingering thread of the conscious brain. You are still technically doing something. You are remaining vigilant.
Wow.
To cross the bridge completely, to enter that unknown, effortless world and experience the peak of physical and mental restoration, you have to abandon even the observer.
So you transition from observing the experience to simply being the experience. You have to surrender completely.
The text says you just sit still and surrender everything. You surrender to the Tao, the Dharma, to nature, or just to your own internal biology. It emphasizes that the label really doesn't matter.
It's about the state itself.
Right. It is a long journey, and crucially, it is a journey with no hurry and no expectation of a reward.
Right.
Because the expectation of a reward is just the micromanager trying to hit a quarterly goal.
So what does this all mean? For you, listening right now, dealing with the friction of daily life, the endless notifications, the underlying stress, there is a beautiful, almost painful irony here.
There really is.
We spend our entire lives trying to effort our way to peace. We try to outthink our anxiety. We optimize our daily schedules into 15-minute blocks. We micromanage our diets and our relationships.
Trying to control everything.
We genuinely believe that if we just grip the steering wheel tight enough, we will finally feel safe. But this ancient text, backed by modern biological reality, is telling us that ultimate physical and psychological healing only happens when we admit that our conscious brain does not need to be in the driver's seat 24/7.
It requires a fundamental shift in how we view our own competence. To summarize the journey we've been on through this text today, we are basically operating with two completely different operating systems.
Right.
One is built for complex navigation and deliberate effort, and the other is a magnificent, ancient engine built for effortless healing and maintenance. Techniques like focusing on your breath aren't tasks you need to excel at.
They aren't a test.
No, they are temporary tools. Their only purpose is to help you safely bench that micromanaging conscious brain so the night shift crew can actually get to work.
So the next time you are overwhelmed by information overload or your stress levels are just through the roof, remember this deep dive. The solution isn't to think harder.
Definitely not.
The solution isn't to violently force your mind to be perfectly empty. The solution is to trust your own brilliant, automatic internal machinery. Just step back, be the parent on the bench, let the thoughts run around the sandbox until they tire themselves out.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals a fascinating paradox about human performance.
Oh, how so?
Well, we tend to associate the effortless world purely with rest and recovery. But look at extreme sports or professional athletes achieving a flow state.
Oh.
If an Olympic skier going 80 miles an hour down a mountain actively uses their conscious brain to think about the angle of their knees, they crash.
They'd wipe out instantly.
Exactly. To achieve absolute peak performance in the highest stakes environments, humans have to completely shut off the conscious micromanager and surrender entirely to the deeply ingrained unconscious automatic systems.
That completely reframes the whole concept. We assume the conscious mind is responsible for our greatest achievements, but it might just be the training wheels.
The conscious mind is for learning the skill, but the unconscious mind is for executing it. It makes you wonder about the areas in your own life where you are gripping the steering wheel too tightly.
Definitely.
Like, could radical effortlessness be the key not just to inner peace, but to reaching your absolute highest potential? Think back to the beginning, with the ancient emperors using this to rule countries. If you run a business, a family, or a team, what would happen if you stopped hovering at the sandbox and finally went to the coffee shop?
It makes you wonder. Maybe the most powerful thing you can do for your body, your mind, and your ultimate performance today is absolutely nothing. Catch you on the next deep dive.